So in Java 2, we're going to be creating a new class in our Yahtzee game, and this is going to be called the game model. And again, this is our attempt to separate the user interface from the processing code. What I would do is open up your Yahtzee game and create a new class. The way you create a new class in a project is you say File, New File. It asks what we want to build, and we just want to create another Java class. We want to call that class Game Model. And so this is what the game model is going to look like. I've commented out a lot of things, but this is what we want to create. Now, like most classes that we've done in this project, we create a series of constants at the beginning that describe some of the structure in our game model. Okay. The constants you're going to need is bonus. This is how much you add to their score if they get 63 or higher on the upper scoring category, so I made a constant out of that. How many upper scoring categories are there? There's 6. Lower scoring, there's 7, including chance. And then all together, what we do is we have to create a constant called num turns, max num turns. You get 13 turns in Yahtzee. Instead of just hard coding in 13, I add the upper scoring categories to the lower scoring categories, the number of each, and that becomes the number of turns we have. Okay? Yeah, if you finally finish your 13th turn, you use up all the categories, there's no place else to go, then the game's over. So we need that to figure out if we're out of, if the game's over. Now in the game model, we're trying to separate the processing of the game from the visual representation of the game. And so this is where we're going to put in our raw numbers. So here's an array that's going to hold all the upper scoring categories. We take, and all of those are going to be just integers. This is the scores themselves. For how many did you roll, how many 1s did you roll, or how many 3s did you roll? Okay, there's going to be one slot for each one of those. So if you look at the Yahtzee score sheet, it's those top categories. So what we're saying is we want to make slots in memory for each one of these scores in the upper scoring categories for 1 to 6. And so we're going to need 6 of those because we want it to match up with the form. Number of upper score categories, there's 6 of them, right? 1 for each one. So we're going to create an array of 6 integers that's going to represent the boxes right there on the score sheet. Lower score categories, the same thing. We're going to have an array. There's 7 of them, 1 for 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, full house, small straight, large straight, Yahtzee, and chance. Okay. So those are going to hold the raw scores. Now we also have to keep track of whether the score has been used or not. Say they have a 3 of a kind and they get another 3 of a kind and they're trying to press the 3 of a kind button. It doesn't let them because they've already used that category. Once you use that category in Yahtzee, you can't reuse it. So here we're creating an array of Booleans. The reason why we're using Boolean is because they either have used it or they haven't. It's got 2 states, right? So anytime you have a 2-state kind of thing, it's best to use a Boolean operator. I'm saying if the value is true, that means they've used it, and false, that means they haven't yet. So you have to create 2 arrays to keep track of whether or not the category's been used or not. If it's used, it's true or yes, and then if it's false, that means it hasn't been used yet. So that's why I say used. Used upper score categories. So if that comes back as true, then you know that category's been used. Now I also created a new variable called current turn number. A turn is a set of 3 rolls max. Okay, so that's a turn. A roll is just 1 roll of the dice, but a turn takes the whole 3 rolls together. So I had to add that instance variable down here at the bottom, current turn number. Now for those upper score categories, low score categories, and then also the used ones, those are instance fields as well. These are arrays. Here you don't have to specify the size, but when you create them you do. And so that's what we're doing here, is using those constants for that. So for our game model, that's what I would like, at least to start with, for that to look like. Now I'll get this out on a video so you can take a look at this. And we're going to add this other stuff later. I just don't want to make it too confusing.